Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Cole. It's early Sunday evening, March 30th, and this will be the week 11 announcement for Political Science 1013 for the spring 2025 term on the 16-week schedule. Okay, everybody, we are looking ahead to Exam 3 on April 11th. That'll be 1 week from this Friday. We have discussed, I believe, Unit 5 on the presidency. And so this week and next week, I want to say just a few words about Unit 6 on the federal bureaucracy, which is a short unit but important because of everything that is going on with the bureaucracy. That will be the material for the exam on the 11th, Units 5 and 6, along with 4 articles I've asked you to look at. I believe there are 3 on the presidency and 1 on the bureaucracy. So we'll have a bit more to say about that in the next announcement a week from now, which will be the last one before the exam on the 11th. Now, look, this announcement is going out early Sunday evening, the 30th. We have our next discussion. I believe that's discussion 4 for this session, or perhaps 5. Yeah, discussion 5, I believe that's correct. Here in the 16-week section, for the 31st and April 1st. So that will be beginning either today or tomorrow, depending on when you see this message. If you see it this evening, Sunday evening, then the discussion will be tomorrow and the next day, the 31st and the 1st. And if you're seeing this Monday, then the discussion is already underway for the rest of the day, Monday, and on Tuesday, April 1st. It is about USAID, the government agency that distributes foreign aid. You may be aware, and if you're not, you will be from the readings I've asked you to look at. This was one of the first agencies to be targeted by the Trump administration and Elon Musk's DOGE initiative. It looks as though what will happen is whatever is left of USAID will be incorporated into the State Department, and that will be the entity that distributes any foreign aid that the U.S. federal government gives out. Most of the employees have been let go, and they are attempting to incorporate what's left of USAID, I believe, into the State Department. Now, you've been sent a couple of websites to look at for this discussion. One of them is going to link you to a number of views, pro and con, on what the Trump administration is doing to USAID. And you also have a commentary by Senator Johnny Ernst of Iowa from the Wall Street Journal. Remember, Wall Street Journal material you can access through the McKee Library's institutional subscription. And we gave you instructions on how to do that. So that discussion will be running Monday and Tuesday, March 31st and April 1st. I believe that is discussion number 5 out of 6 that we will be having in the 16-week section. Okay, so I hope you will take part in that. Let me say just a few words about Unit 6 on the bureaucracy. It's a relatively short but important unit. Everybody, I'm somewhat constrained in changing my class notes on the fly, the way some people would put it. It's hard to tell what's going on sometimes after the fact, and we are only a few weeks into the Trump administration. So I've not changed my class notes very much for Unit 6. At the beginning, I have noted what Trump and Elon Musk are trying to do. And exactly how all that is going to pan out, I suppose it's uncertain. Some of what they've tried to do has been challenged in court, and Elon Musk and his DOGE initiative, from what I see in the press, the people he's brought in to do that are going to continue to scrutinize the federal bureaucracy from now until sometime in May, and at that point, Musk believes they may be finished with their work on that, and it'll be up to the Trump administration and Congress to decide what to do about Musk's recommendations of the initiatives he's taken at that point. But what we try to do for the first part of the Unit 6 class notes is simply lay out the structure of the federal bureaucracy. Okay. It's got a couple of million employees. We'll probably have somewhat fewer by the time the Doge initiative is finished. There's a limit to what they can do because they're trying to cut back employment in the federal bureaucracy and expenditures to deal with the deficit issue. But much of the spending is not being done in the entities that they're targeting. Most of the spending is accounted for by the Defense Department, Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. So some people commented that there's only about a quarter of government expenditures left in that part of the government that they're trying to scrutinize. In any case, we start off discussing the growth in the federal bureaucracy from the beginning of the country to today. We mentioned in Jefferson's time there were only a couple of thousand employees. There are a couple of million now. There's a lot of work that the federal government contracts out. So if you just look at the people who work directly for the federal government, that doesn't quite take account of everything that they're doing, because it'll be contracted out to consulting firms and it is in the private sector who work for the government more or less indirectly. We wanted to look at the various units of the federal bureaucracy. There are 15 cabinet level departments. They are trying to eliminate at least one of them. You may have heard in the news media that Trump very much wants to eliminate the Department of Education and move that department's functions into other parts of the government. Congress will have to go along with that before the department can be eliminated completely, because it was created by an act of Congress. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But there are some members of the cabinet that outrank the others. We mentioned there were 4 above all who make up the inner cabinet. There'll be the Secretary of State, who is Marco Rubio, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, the Attorney General Pam Bondi, and the Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent is his name, I believe. Okay. Those 4 positions have been around almost from the beginning of the country, and we call those 4 positions the inner cabinet, because their charge is so broad they discharge functions for the government as a whole and the country as a whole, rather than a department like the USDA, the Department of Agriculture, which I discuss extensively in the notes, which deals pretty much exclusively with the agribusiness economy only. And the Department of Education disperses money to the public schools in the states and localities. So entities like that are more limited in what they do than those 4 big ones who make up the inner cabinet: the Department of State, Department of Defense, the Justice Department, and the Department of the Treasury. The newest one is the Department of Homeland Security, and it now is headed up by former Governor of South Dakota, Kristi Noem. Her photograph is in the class notes. You may have seen her on TV and some of the announcements, the commercials that the government has paid for on behalf of the Department of Homeland Security. Then there are independent agencies, independent regulatory commissions, and government corporations like Amtrak and the Postal Service that are called government corporations because they get some of their revenue from selling their services in the marketplace, just like a private sector entity. Okay. So there are cabinet level departments, most all of which have many, many subunits. We give you an organizational chart of the Ag Department, Department of Agriculture, and some of the many, many entities within that department. Then there are independent agencies that are not part of any cabinet level department. And there are regulatory commissions, independent regulatory commissions, that are controversial. Okay. They're one of the targets of the Trump administration. because it's unclear where they lie on the organizational chart. Are they part of the legislature, part of the executive branch, part of the judiciary? The Supreme Court once described these entities as being quasi-judicial and quasi-legislative. And their critics would say, well, where do they lie then? Where are they on the organizational chart? They've been established by Congress to issue regulations that have the force of law, but they're not legislatures, they're regulatory commissions. Very often, the way they will operate, well, just about always, is with a head of the commission and then a multi-member board. Okay? Rather than a single individual at the top, there will be a board that may have to vote on decisions about issuing regulations. 90 years ago, the Supreme Court issued a decision about regulatory commissions, and it said Congress was authorized to create a commission and put one or more people at the head of that commission with limits on the president's ability to fire or remove that person. They could only be removed for cause if Congress so stipulated. Now, Donald Trump and his people do not agree with that. They say that Article 2 gives them power over the executive branch. They have exclusive power over it, and that ought to include the authority to remove the head of a regulatory commission. So that's one of the big issues that the Supreme Court may have to face in the coming months in response to some of the initiatives that the Trump administration has taken or wants to take. So there are cabinet-level departments, independent agencies, government corporations, and independent regulatory commissions, which are a focus or kind of a target of the Trump administration with regard to the authority that the president may or may not have over them. Now, what I want to do next time is talk a little bit about difficulties that presidents have had getting the federal bureaucracy to be responsive to them. And this is one reason that Trump and his people would say that they have taken the actions that they have, because they have been trying to bring the bureaucracy under some constraint or make it answerable to what the president wants them to do with limited success for some time. And so you may have seen Elon Musk waving around a chainsaw. They thought that all they could do is take after the bureaucracy with a chainsaw, as it were, from the very get-go, and move quickly and break things, as Musk and his people like to say. All right, well, all that will be resolved over the coming months after our course is over, for better or worse. But we wanted to lay out for you the different units within the federal bureaucracy, and next time we will say a bit more about difficulties that presidents have encountered through the years trying to supervise the bureaucracy and get the bureaucratic agencies to be responsive to what the president wants them to do. So, we will be having a discussion on Monday the 31st, which may be when you were seeing this announcement, depending on when you open it up and view the video. Monday the 31st and Tuesday the 1st will be our 5th discussion on USAID, so I hope that you will take part in that. And we will talk to you once again about a week from now at this time, which will be our last announcement for you before the 3rd exam on April 11th. So take it easy, study hard, get in touch with me through the website or at david.co@opsu.edu with any problems, questions, or issues, and we will talk to you one last time before exam 3 about a week from now at this time.